All right, so how do you like my new plant? I killed the last one.
That new snake plant or whatever.
So did this?
like
Yeah,
that
this one's safer. If
Yeah.
you forget to water it, it's a little more forgiving.
Yeah, those are the best plants.
I remember Suzette had a big one. She gave us
She
some
did?
of it. She
Well,
was like,
that's where that came from.
okay, yeah, she had that monster one.
Yeah. All right. Well, camera's running, and people. I get a lot of comments on the channel and emails. People want to know what's your mite treatment going to be this year, and what you up to and stuff. And seeing as I don't have any video for this Sunday at all, I thought we'd just sit here and chat about what you guys have been doing
Yeah.
over the last 2 weeks, what I've been doing for the last 2 weeks, and what we're going to be doing for the next couple months. We've had something fun. We have some. Oops, I have some volunteers coming. This is my schedule. This is my schedule for the next couple of months. Kind of crazy. Got to start learning how to say no.
Right.
But these are our visitors here for March and April. Natalie Summers and her family is coming.
Yeah.
Beekeeping like a girl.
Yeah.
Yep.
Olivia Menard, Tracy and Rich Stewart from Ohio are going to spend a week with us, or 5 days. Mark Lavazza, he's from Virginia. Tim is coming.
Oh, boy.
Oh, I'm not yet. I
Tim
figured.
Liptak from Charleston.
He gets here as much as he
Him
can.
and John have a lot of fun together.
Yeah. I love to.
We loved him.
Yeah.
We love Tim. Cody McGuire. Where's Cody from? He might be from Virginia too.
Here we go.
Nice guy. Been talking to him. So look at this crazy schedule.
Oscar's going to be here too.
Oh, Oscar's coming too. That's
Right.
right. Yeah. Kevin Monfeld's going to be here in late March.
Okay.
So yeah, we got lots of visitors, which is good. Lots of help at just the right time of year.
Yes.
Our crew is a little different than it was even just 5 or 6 years ago. We shrunk a lot.
Yeah.
I really like it. I really like what's going on right now. I'd like to talk about that a minute, because I'm going to embarrass you guys.
Okay.
I've had a lot of people work for me back when we had 2,000 to 3,000 colonies every year. There was always 5 or 6 of us, and always nice people. But when I'm in the bee yard and I'm trying to work myself, get some work done, and I'm kind of overseeing everybody else, it's like I got to have half my brain going that way and the other half on my work, and it's really hard to focus on what I'm doing. So with just us three, and of course I have to say we have less colonies. We do not have 2 or 3
Right.
thousand colonies anymore. We've got, I guess we've got about 700 right now, maybe even a couple less because we've lost a few.
I think it's at least 700.
At least
Yeah.
700? Okay, you know more than I do. I plan on having about 1,000 for this summer. So that's much smaller than it has been in the past. But that's my new strategy. I'm done traveling out of
Oh,
state.
yeah.
I'm done, going to South Georgia, all this stuff. There was a time when we made 1,500 packages and 1,500 nukes every year, and
Yeah.
sold lots of colonies. There was one year about 5 years ago we sold almost 1,000 colonies, and then we repopulate. And I like doing that. I like making bees. But what we have going on right now with just us three, this is really comfortable and it's really easy. And this is the part where I embarrass you guys. I never would have thought. I would have never put my money on the idea or the concept that you guys would become best friends.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like you're so different.
Yes, we were very,
Very different.
Very different.
So this has been very fun to watch unfold. Very good. So I think the three of us make a really good team with this occasional, people coming in to volunteer. I think it's great. So I just want to compliment you guys on all that. I'm really happy with what's happening right now.
Yeah, we are too.
Selena is now the de facto record keeper.
Whether she likes it or not.
Yeah, 5 years ago, I've always kept a notebook, but 5 years ago I didn't have butterflies and happy faces and little hearts on my notes.
Yes.
So that's not me. That's not John either.
Right.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Notebooks with little flowers and bees.
It's
Would you have
beautiful.
bought that in Walmart?
No, right. No, it's
Wouldn't have
beautiful.
bought that. It's beautiful, yeah. So this is our current record book, and the reason she's doing it is because she does such a good job.
Yes.
And you can read her writing.
Yes, that makes a big difference.
Makes a big difference. So she's been keeping track of what we did through the year. This is very interesting. We've got feed. You know, I know a lot of people use iPads and
Yep.
iPhones and stuff to keep track and keep records, but that's just not me. I've been doing this since 1981, and I guess I'm just old-fashioned. I just don't want to go in that direction. I like that you're really good at keeping a notebook up. Every time we go into a yard, she'll take notes, and then at the end of the day, she'll write it down in the notebook. So we've got interesting categories here. Feed, who's been fed, the Dayland project. We've got history on all that. What else you got? Chris Werner, Queens,
Where
Queen
they've been
Cells,
put.
Where we put
2004 Queens, Nukes. So yeah, the list just goes on and on. If we want to know who's gotten their oxalic acid treatment, it's all here, right here in this category.
Dates, everything.
Very organized. I like that. Thank you very much. So what we do is we keep all our yard records in the notebook, and then the individual colony records, of course, we write on the lid with a queen marking pen or a big industrial fat Sharpie of some sort.
Yeah.
I guess that's a Sharpie.
Yeah,
Pretty big
it's a
mark.
big one.
Yeah, those are good. I
The
like using
professional
those big
Sharpie,
black
whatever.
markers, yeah.
Yep.
So we're doing pretty good on the record keeping. I'm really impressed with what you're doing. There was a time when I had over 60 yards. And
Right.
there was actually, you know, if I think this is crazy, but there was actually a time when I could keep all the information of 60 yards up here. I can't do that anymore. I've got to write it down or it's gone.
Right.
And now we're down to about 32 yards, I guess, something like that,
Yeah.
give or take, which is one subject I want to talk about. These guys, I've gone out, excuse me, I've gone out a little bit with them, but over the last several weeks, month, it's been mostly these two going out because I've been busy right here trying to keep up with my business stuff and all the paperwork and all the things that need to be accomplished before I get buried in the bee yard myself.
Yeah.
I do go out, contrary to what people might think, because they always see you guys and never see me in the bee yard. I do spend the summer in the bee yards and a good deal of this, and of course all spring too. My days of putting 80 hours a week in the bee yard are behind me. I'm pretty sure about that.
Yeah.
So I can't work like I used to. I used to be my very best worker. Always was. Nobody could keep up with me. But
No, I believe it.
yeah, but I'm not that way anymore.
No, I believe it. I can't imagine what it was like working with you back in the day.
Yeah. So you've been here 6 years.
Yeah.
You've been here
About three,
3 years.
yeah.
Yeah. So very interesting chemistry we got going on here. So let's talk about bee yards for a minute. We have a pattern that's showing up here, and I've seen this pattern over the years, but it's getting worse, it's more defined now, and I've got to do something about it. And that's all those yards around Wolford Valley and Raven Gap.
Yeah.
That's where the agriculture is in our area.
Yep.
The bottomland there is so rich, why wouldn't they farm there? And the pattern that we're seeing show up is that most of our weak yards are around there. Our
Yeah.
smaller bees are in that area. And there's 3 things going on in that area that are causing that. One is sweet corn, because they spray sweet corn so heavily. The other is occasional pumpkins, and,
Yep.
and then the squash. You know, Ricky's always growing squash.
Yeah.
And the bees love to go to squash, and if it's getting sprayed fungicides and stuff like that, you know, they're bringing it home.
Right.
Of course, the sweet corn, that's not a fungicide, that's a pesticide. They're killing bugs when they're spraying the sweet corn.
Okay.
You know, it wouldn't be so bad if they just had one crop of sweet corn, but he's trying to do successive plantings, and it's not just him, it's all over the place up there. There's many people doing successive plantings so they can have corn coming off week after week after week.
Okay.
You know, so, you know, if they spray one field of corn 2 or 3 or 4 times, whatever it is, and then it's over, well, next week the next field's tasseling and
Right,
they're doing
right.
that one.
Okay.
And we really worked this year at trying to move bees away from the corn.
Yeah.
And you and I did
Oh
a
yeah,
lot of
hopping
that.
around.
And it helped. I mean, we did pretty good. But there's still the residue. I don't know how to explain it. I feel like it's just becoming a toxic area. Even when we're not present, when the spray is occurring,
Right.
there's a degree of toxicity in that agricultural area. I want to move away from it. I want to stop using those yards.
I know it's so pretty in there.
It's so pretty, and the bees do well when they're not getting into poison.
Yeah.
Good sourwood in there and everything. So Clint is very familiar with the persimmon area
Yes.
up there.
Yep.
High elevation. The reason I've resisted going to persimmon area is because it's a bit of a drive.
Yeah.
You know, you can't get there in 5 minutes. But if we can get, 2 or 3 or 4 yards up there, it can make that little drive worthwhile. So Clint and I, he knows a lot of people up there. We're going to go up there and really scour around, see if we can get some good yards up there.
No, it's
a beautiful area.
yeah, it's
gorgeous.
nice.
And elevation's higher than any of our current bee yards, but I still think we do fairly decent up
Oh,
there. It's not
okay.
too high. I've had yards in the past above 3,000 feet and still made honey. And I think persimmon is like, 2,800 feet,
I'm not
somewhere in
sure.
that area.
Yeah.
I think we do okay.
And David Watson's had his bees out
David
there.
Watson takes bees up there and does well. So
Yep.
yeah, I think we can do that. And so that's one thing that's going to occur this summer. So we're going to, now I'm not going to say we'll never use those yards in Wolfork. I can see taking the yards out of Habersham, like Henry's and Skavarka's, the yards that we can really get a forklift into easily, moving them up there just for the sourwood. And as soon as the sourwood's over, just move them back out and take them down to Hollywood.
Yeah.
So I think that's another strategy that we'll probably take on this year. And so from what you've been reporting, I've had some surprises, honestly. The bees that I thought would be least likely to be large and building up are Upper Middle Creek, and you tell me that Upper Middle Creek is one of our best yards.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Very surprising. That's probably our highest elevation yard.
Yeah, it's up
And
there.
of course, it's way up that hollow, so
Yeah.
there's I don't know what kind of pollen's up there, but the idea that they're starting to brood up in that fashion is a bit of a surprise. So we got, how many yards we going to try to vacate? We got Mountain City,
Hopper and
Hopper,
Hay Barn.
Dickerson, Hay Barn,
Are you
Meadowbrook?
including Kelly's Creek?
Meadowbrook. Kelly's Creek is a hit or miss.
I know.
Kelly's Creek is a long ways from the nearest cornfield.
Right.
It's like 3/4 of a mile to a mile, and most years that works.
And
Occasionally we get burned there a little, but this year you're
They're
saying they're
really
one of our
strong.
best yards.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I like that.
In Highland
And
Road.
something else that I don't even have to ask, I'll bet you're seeing a pattern with, is that most of our best colonies are the double deeps, aren't they?
Yes,
Yeah.
most of
Oh,
them.
yeah, for sure.
Of course, I've always known that double deeps will overwinter with a bigger cluster than a single will, if it was a double deep, way back in late summer.
Yeah.
When, like Jack's house, where we were yesterday looking, that's all double deeps, but those double deep, the second box wasn't put on till
Later.
Yeah,
what,
later.
October or November, so
Right.
they really are a single colony with
Just extra
just a
food.
box stacked on. And the other big news here is mites.
Yes.
Yeah, big shocker.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So when we took mite samples back, it was late November. The bees were just getting away from brood rearing. Our brood rearing lasted late this year. November was so warm that they just didn't stop.
Right.
Normally we start to see no brood in early November, but this year that didn't happen till the end of November. When we took mite counts at the end of November, after the brood had all hatched, we were seeing 1s, 3s, 5s. I mean, almost every colony had at least one mite in it.
Yeah.
And then you guys have been doing mite washes all over the place here in the last 2
Yeah.
weeks. And this is the interesting thing. They haven't found a mite yet. We don't see a single
Right.
mite anywhere.
We've done at least 12 washes.
Yeah.
At least 12, maybe 15 or what, like
Yeah,
all
well,
over from.
all over every yard you've done a few, yeah.
Yep.
And so very interesting. And even yesterday at Jack's, you saw no mites.
No mites, yeah.
And they've been doing mite testing on colonies that had, for the most part, no brood in them. So that's important too.
Right.
If you're doing an alcohol wash and the colony has brood this time of year, the mites that overwintered are already entering the brood, and you don't pick them up in a mite wash. So,
Okay.
So this idea that you've been washing colonies with zero brood, that's way more accurate than washing colonies with brood.
Okay.
So that completely changes my thoughts on mite treatments this coming year. I thought we might do a spring treatment and then put on the extended oxalic acid release strips that we did like last year and the year before. I don't think we're going to do anything in the spring. I think we'll just go straight to the strips a little later, like in a March or April.
Okay.
And we did a video on that back in September or something like that.
Yeah.
Those are effective. We saw that clearly. They really help. Other people in the area, Kevin's bees, we saw an alcohol wash on those, and they've still got, even after 2 vaporizations, they're still showing 2 or 3 mites in every colony. That's interesting.
Right.
I think the reason we were so successful and why we're showing such low mite numbers is we were very careful about our timing. We waited until we knew everybody was broodless, and then you guys were also very careful about picking your temperatures.
Yes.
All of the vaporization treatments were done between 40 degrees and 50 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yep.
And that's so important because if you go colder than that, the bees can be tightly clustered and it's not as effective. The vapors don't penetrate the cluster as well.
That's how, when I first started, that's what we'd go there when it was freezing cold. That was
well,
when we thought.
We had to because we had so many bees. Trying
okay.
to get every treatment at 40 to 50 degrees was hard to do.
Oh yeah,
we didn't have enough time.
Yeah.
With less than 1,000 colonies, we were able to pick and choose our days.
Okay.
And go only when it worked really well.
Yeah.
And then of course you always stayed under 50 degrees, so the bees weren't flying, and so you were it was really effective.
Oh no, it's like.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we did 2 treatments. So of course the theory was to treat, knock out most of the mites, and then come back and treat again to knock out most of the few mites that were left behind. Obviously very effective.
Yeah.
Obviously very effective.
Have you ever had it like this? I mean, no.
No, I would say, well, close. Like a 1 here or a 1 there, but
Right.
never zeros everywhere.
Just across the board, yeah.
Everywhere we go. Now, the reason I hesitated there is because quite often we're doing mite counts early in the season and getting a lot of zeros, but they've got brood in them.
Okay.
So this time you had no brood, so that's a different
Right.
situation.
Okay.
The other thing is that we got lots of food everywhere. That's good news.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's been kind of something I've been worried about. And of course, we've been laying those sugar patties on the singles as kind of an insurance policy. They didn't absolutely have to have them. I mean, they had enough weight to get to this point, but giving them the sugar patties to chew on through the winter just helps a little. The other question I get a lot, I probably got this question 6 times this week, is when can I start feeding syrup? My answer is you can feed syrup in cold weather, but it's not effective and the bees don't do well with it. It's much better to wait till the bees are flying and you got good weather. So my marker for that has always been when the maple pollen starts to come, we're okay to start feeding syrup. Excuse me. It's early in the morning. I haven't quite. That's not that far away in the southern yards.
Right.
In Habersham County, it's only 2 weeks away. Down
Okay.
around Hollywood. Up here, it's 3 weeks away, and north of here, it could be a month away.
Okay.
We're talking about the 4th or 5th of February today. So usually, traditionally, in our southern yards, it starts on Valentine's Day in a normal year,
Right.
February 14th. Because of the cold weather we had this winter, I wouldn't be surprised if it starts just a few days later.
Okay.
The last 3 seasons, it started early, as much as a week early.
Yeah.
And but this year, I don't think that's going to happen. And Otto, up there in North Carolina, can be the 1st or 2nd week in March. And if we take bees up to Persimmon, it could be mid-March up there next year when they start.
Okay.
Much the higher,
Yeah.
more the northern you go, the worse it is. Not the worse it is, the later it is.
Yeah.
So the other thing is you swapped out a lot of food frames. We had some dead outs, not an excessive amount in my opinion, it's just the usual
The
stuff.
normal.
Yeah, so some of those dead outs had frames of honey, and anywhere you've been finding empty combs in the top box, you've been swapping in these heavy frames.
Yeah.
That's a good thing to do with the honey from the dead outs. We could have saved it or could be saving it and using it on nukes when we start making nukes in 2 months, but it's okay, let's use it up now. So I haven't even asked this question. I got my opinion, but you've been feeding both Hive Alive and the AP23 winter patties. I know what I don't like about the Hive Alive, and that is that plastic.
Yeah.
Like if they don't finish the corners and you got to get it out of there, either throw away some sugar,
Right.
or you've got to strip it out of that plastic, and then that plastic is a mess to clean up. I don't mind paper from the other patties sitting around.
Right.
It's easy to scrape out of there, but I don't like that plastic. You know, I don't know. Hive Alive may be better for some reason.
I know. I don't know. Yeah.
So at there have been points when we thought the bees were taking the Hive Alive better, but then
Other
when we
ones.
went
Other
down
ones,
to
yeah.
Orchard, it seemed almost the opposite. The winter patties from Daydant were disappearing seemingly faster.
Yeah.
They like it all. All the fondant all the fondant patties I've ever used, which isn't a lot. I've only been using patties the last few years. The bees take to all of them. I've
Right.
never seen one that the bees didn't work well with. So let's see. You've been boosting small colonies. Yeah, we should talk about that. And we have some very small nukes at this moment. You know, little two-framers. And,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now's a good time. We're starting to finally find a little bit of brood in some of the larger colonies, and you guys have been swapping small patterns of sealed brood into some of these small nukes.
Yeah.
And that's important. At this point, any nuke that's alive and starting to create their own brood has probably made it. They're probably going to make it through the season.
Okay.
I want to sell these nukes shortly, like within a month. I want to have a month and a half max. I want them to be gone. I've got the University of Georgia wants some, Jack called,
Okay.
and they'll take whatever we got. And then
Okay.
there's this fellow in North Carolina that wanted to buy some, and he really asked first, so we'll supply his numbers, and whatever's left will go to UGA.
Okay.
All of these people would take them today if I
Right.
wanted. But I want to make sure they're in good shape and have a reasonable amount of bees and brood in them before we sell them. So you've already been doing a little bit of boosting. I saw you working at my house yesterday.
Yes, sir.
And then the next 2 weeks when we go back to check them, we'll boost them again
Yeah.
a little bit.
It's cool.
And then maybe 2 weeks after that, we'll boost them again. And that will make them a good solid 5-frame nuke by the
Yeah.
time mid-March comes along. So you've been also something interesting, and you're doing what we've always done, is that you don't always just have to give a frame of brood to boost. Sometimes you can take a very strong one, swap locations with a weak one, and they'll kind of equalize that way. You've been
Right.
doing that. So very interesting season. It's going to be, your record keeping is going to be very important this spring with the Dayland project, and we're going to be doing so much. How do I say this? We're really going to mix it up when it comes to creating our own queens this year. We've got that brand new Caucasian breeder from Shabu. That thing came from the University of Washington, so that's a special queen for us. Expensive. I think it cost him $1,200 or something.
Right.
Why he's trusting with us is a little. He says, "Oh yeah, it's okay. If it dies, don't worry about it." Well, if it dies, I'm gonna not like it.
Right.
If it was mine, I wouldn't worry about it too much. But taking care of somebody else's $1,200 breeder queen makes me a little nervous.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, we're going to be grafting from that.
Okay.
And so what we've got, we're going to have 3 types of queens to graft from. We're going to graft from pure Caucasian, artificially inseminated breeder queens from Shabu.
Okay.
We're going to graft from some pole line queens. We got a lot of those. And
Yeah.
I'm getting 3 breeders from Frank Rinkovich, Baton Rouge Lab. He's the guy that's one of the guys that's kind of managing that program.
Okay.
So we're getting breeders right from the source, which I'm going to try to make use of. And then I like Randy Oliver's line. We've been getting this Golden West line of bees from Ray Alvarez, and some people are actually like, well, if they're open mated, are they really all Randys? And the answer is yes, because Randy's being, according to Ray, whom I've had some conversations with about this, Randy's being pretty particular. He's insisting that Ray provide Randy's drone stock in isolated mating yards.
Okay.
Not only using Randy's queens to graft from, but this needs to be managed according to Randy, and Ray's doing it. So
Okay.
we're going to be getting really good Golden West stuff again this year,
Yeah.
and I want to graft from that.
Okay.
Now,
Those are my favorite.
They're
like
your
that. I
favorite,
like the
yeah.
golden ones.
Well, and we got to admit that we haven't had them that long. We just put
Yeah.
them in, last summer, and really haven't run them a season yet. But it would appear that between the pole line, the Saskatraz, which we got we got a couple dozen, we got about 50 of them or
50,
something,
yeah.
And the Saskatraz, the pole line, and we got pole lines from 3 different sources.
Right.
I got to make mention of that. And they seem to kind of all be the same. Would you agree with that? The pole line from
Yes.
these 3 sources seem to be
Yeah.
about the same.
So, yeah.
They're not mean bees. I mean, I've not seen any issues with the pole line at all, but Randy seemed to be just a little gentler.
Yeah.
They remind me a little more of our Caucasian bees.
Right, yeah.
I believe they're pretty gentle. So we're going to be grafting from Golden West, we're going to be grafting from pole line, and we're going to be grafting from Caucasian.
Okay.
Now we have these specific regions where we have all of these bees. Like we have 6 yards of pole line just south of here,
Yes.
around Turnerville, Hollywood. So that provides us pole line drone stock. And we're going to take Randy's queens, the Golden West, and we got to come up with one region in our outfit that we feel is isolated. We're getting 200. Ray's going to send us 200 in April. So I think we'll make nukes with those and permeate a region. Maybe persimmon, I don't know, because
Yeah.
I don't think there's many bees up there.
Right.
Or warbler.
Or Warwoman Road. That's very isolated.
Yeah.
And another area that's isolated, if we could get another yard or 2 up there, is actually up by Gillespie. There's nothing up there but
Yeah,
us.
that would be.
Yeah.
That would be a very good mating area if we could get another 2 or 3 yards in there.
Yeah.
So so we got the pole line region, and then right there in Clayton, we permeated that place with Caucasian.
Right.
We got the Tiger yard, we got the Walmart yard.
Yep.
It's within striking distance. We have the McCracken 2 yard, which you 2 are going to have bees in there, and I'm going to recommend that we put Caucasian bees, Caucasian queens in your colonies, because they're going to be mating with all the nukes that are at Walmart. And that'll be like a triangle
Right.
of drone stock yards around Walmart, plus the yard of Walmart
Right.
that they can mate with. So that'll be our Caucasian. So we'll take all of these different genetics and mate with Caucasian.
Yeah.
Then we'll take all of the different 3 lines and we'll mate with pole line down in Habersham.
Yeah.
And then whatever region we permeate with the Golden West, we'll take all 3 lines and mate there.
Right.
And then it'll take a season, but then we can start evaluating what's going on with these crosses.
Okay.
And, Brother Adam in that book, I got it on the shelf over there, Beekeeping at Buckfast Abbey, talked about how you can cross one direction and get one result and cross the other way and get another result.
Right.
Like Caucasian daughters mated with Italian drones may give you a different result than Italian daughters mated with Caucasian drones.
Right.
So we're going to do all of this
Yeah.
and really evaluate. Of course, if we settle, I'm pretty certain that we're always going to have a Caucasian stock somewhere to graft from and to mate with. I just like those bees so much.
Yeah.
And I know you guys too.
Oh, yeah.
Do too. And I got to thinking about the way it used to be. 10 years ago, we just used any old queens that we got wherever, and man, we got stung a lot because working in bad weather and our yards were bigger. We had 64 colonies in a yard, and golly, we got stung a lot. It just doesn't happen anymore, and it's all because of the Caucasian bees that even if it's not a pure Caucasian colony, they have the influence of it in there, and
Okay.
we really see a difference. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, that's the only bees I've ever worked. Or the.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you don't have. Oh, you've been lucky. You don't have
Right.
experience with them.
I wasn't here for the.
And our old outfit wasn't vicious. It was just normal,
Right.
in my view. Normal bees that would sting you up on a bad day when
Right.
you're, tearing them apart. And there's a lot of bees and a lot of colonies in the bee yard. So we just don't have that issue with the Caucasians. So unless we find something really magical somewhere in all of these combinations, I can see always having some Caucasian, as part of the mix.
Yeah.
You guys got anything you want to add to all this whole conversation?
I think you covered everything.
Yeah, I
You did a
think
good
that's
job
about
of
I know I
making
was going to
notes
have you
first.
guys talk, and I did all the talking. Yeah.
We just look good.
Sit here and look
Right.
at
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, just some good-looking people in the.
Right. Right.
And modesty too is important.
Exactly,
John.
of
John's so
course.
modest. I don't know how his wife puts up with it. Just keeping it real.
Yeah,
John.
yes, keeping
That's his
it real.
favorite line. Keeping it real. So we could look at. Yeah, this is an interesting page. This is. So we have a page.
That was towards the end of the season. This
Yeah.
stuff in the front is like our most recent.
Yeah.
But that was towards the end of the year
So
when we
you
were
got
just making sure everybody
yard-
was
a
fed
check
up
mark
good.
for sugar patties.
And
A
then-
check mark for having collected the strips,
Mm-hmm.
buckets removed, weight, heavy, blah, 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 blah. Betty's Creek.
This
and
was
we-
when we were finding colonies for John Knox. Making
Yeah.
sure we,
Yeah. We sold a lot of colonies this year, and that's why we have some of these holes everywhere we
Oh
go.
yeah, right.
So we did the same thing that I do in the past. We sell our very best colonies.
Oh right.
And so sometimes when we go into a yard and go, let's see, there's only 8
Right,
colonies
we're
here,
like,
and
why
they're
are
all
they so
small. Why
small?
is that? Well, we
Right.
sold all the best colonies. That's the reason. And we did sell quite a few colonies this fall.
Yeah,
So,
and
and
they
it
were-
happens without even trying, you know. People
Right.
call. I could have sold a lot more. I got a lot of calls and just declined people's
Yeah.
requests. A lot of people want me to sell them colonies this spring. We're going to sell a handful.
Okay.
I'm actually going to give 20 to Shabu. You know, Shabu got hit with that tornado last year,
Yeah.
wiped him out. He needs some bees to work with, so we're going to give him
That'd
20
be nice,
colonies.
yeah.
Well, he gives us so much. I mean,
Okay.
my goodness, I need to reciprocate there a little bit.
Yeah.
So we got which yards are pallets, which yards are on bottom boards. And because we're not moving, you know, like we used to, people are puzzled why we have half of our yards on pallets and some of them are seen permanently located on bottom boards. And
Right.
it's because that's the way it used to be when we were moving so much. Well, now that we're not moving so much, I can see having more colonies on bottom boards
Oh,
and
yeah.
less on pallets,
Yep.
except for the ones that we want to go back and forth with.
Yeah.
The pallets, there's pros and cons to pallets and bottom boards. I prefer working bottom boards personally. I know some people like working the pallets because you've got a table right beside you to set stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I like working on bottom boards because they're individual. You know, they're not that far from the colony next door.
Right.
Kind of like that. So here's the dayland, list of dayland yards. We got 6 yards with dayland, vaccinated and unvaccinated in them.
Yeah, like mate the pallets. That's a
Boy, we had some interesting comments on this vaccination business. I thought I made it really clear in the video that we weren't advocating for vaccination or, you know, saying it's something you should do, that I was just there for the learning. But
well, they came to us,
well,
right?
they came to us. Yeah,
Right.
at first I was prepared to just say, no, I don't think I want to do that. But after listening closely to the scientists about just what this is all about, I see no harm. I
Yeah.
see no harm in it. I think I've learned enough about it to understand that there's zero harm going to be done in this. When that queen dies and her offshoots perish, that it's gone. The vaccination disappears.
Yeah.
And I don't see that it's doing any harm even when it's present, honestly. I just don't see a problem. But man, have I got some interesting comments. A couple people were pretty rude and nasty. Like,
Right.
hey, how dare you, you know?
Right.
How dare you? Yeah, it's okay. Still dealing with one guy.
Yeah, I
I don't know
heard.
why, yeah, I don't know what his problem is. He needs to get over it. And back in the book, we have individual pages on every yard, so we can look at the history of that yard. Gillespie's, you know, gosh, this goes way back to last March. I like that. It's good to look back.
Oh yeah, that's what we were talking. We're going to continue having this notebook even into 2025.
You got to start a new notebook.
Yeah.
Right, it's New Year.
So is it going to look pretty like this?
Yes,
This
I
is
like it
faded
pretty.
because of the light, what you can't see in the camera is all the bees,
Little bees,
and the hearts and stuff.
It looks good. Yeah.
But your shirt's full of flowers too, isn't it? That's Celine in a nutshell.
Yeah.
All the little hearts. I can't even do it. How do you do it, John?
The heart.
Yeah, you do a heart. All right. Well, this gives me some material to put on a video Sunday. Some people might find it boring,
Yeah.
and